let's get talking about one specific company. Let's kick off the show with that. Indegene is the one that we're talking about. It's set to acquire BioPharm for around $106 million. Joining in now, we have Manish Gupta, who's the co-founder and the CEO of the company. Our discussion is going to be focused on these three main points. First is the BioPharm acquisition, what synergies they see, the business impact amid tariff news, with regards to what's taking place in the US, and obviously the deal wins and the outlook for the company in FY26. Manish, hi, thank you very much for joining in. But I'm going to start with this BioPharm acquisition. Just give us a sense in terms of, let's start with the revenues, because it was $38 million in the previous, it was $40 million in 2022. And just in the previous year, it was around $38 million. So it's been a little jagged in terms of the revenue for this particular company. So tell us why is that? Why were the revenues a little jagged? And what does this particular acquisition bring to the table? Is it EPS accretive?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this show, Ekta. Before I get into some of this, the jagged part of it, let me explain where this acquisition fits in the broader industry trends which are playing out. Life science industry is a pretty large industry. You're aware of that. It's around $2 trillion in size, around $10 trillion market cap, and of course, a very super important market and industry. This industry also spends around 18% of the $2 trillion revenues on sales and marketing, approximately, which is, as you can imagine, the largest spend. This 18% spend, or call it $360 billion, is going through some fundamental restructuring over the last 15 years. A market or a model which was primarily feet on the ground, sales rep driven, right? That used to be the largest expense, has been shifting towards non-personal promotions, which means companies are spending more and more on digital outreach to physicians, right? And that's been a big trend, more and more dollars shifting towards digital outreach. Within digital outreach, much more being spent on centralization, data, right? And much more hyper-targeted physician focus on the sales and marketing side. Now, that's a space which Indegene has been operating in. 70% of our revenues comes from that space. BioPharm has been a market leader in that whole space of hyper-localized, hyper-targeted physician outreach in the United States, right? With some of the assets we have as Indegene, we have a product called Envisage, which is a data asset, around 2 million physicians profiled for their digital propensities. BioPharm extends that data capability of ours. Now we'll have more than 3 million physicians profiled for their digital propensity. We also go out to and have data on very specialized areas like oncology, rare diseases, ophthalmology. Those data sets expand very significantly. Even from a channel outreach perspective, the channels which we were as Indegene strong on were things like email, web.
All right. But Manish, we get the rationale, but tell us a little bit about the numbers. We want to know, when will this particular acquisition be EPS accretive? Why have the revenues been, why is it off the peak revenues of around $40 million in 2022? And what's the trajectory of growth?
So the trajectory of growth has been strong. There is a bit of a nuance in this business that what you see are the gross revenues, right? Gross revenues of 40 and 38. And then there are net revenues. And the difference between gross revenues and net revenue is essentially pass-through revenues, right? Biopharma also has a very strong media business, which means it does media buying on behalf of small and mid-sized pharma companies, right? And that passes through its books. So that kind of results in some bit of variability in revenues, which has resulted in this this difference which you see. Otherwise, the business has been a very stable business, very solid business.
So we
have a profitable business.
We have only these numbers to go by. So give us a sense in terms of what the trajectory of revenues could probably look like, whether it is EPS accretive.
It is going to be EPS accretive. It is going to be EPS accretive right from day one.
Okay.
This business also we believe is going to grow in 25 and 26, given that once it's with the synergies we bring as Indegene, the market presence we bring, that's also going to be expanding.
And what would the blended margins look like, considering that your current consolidated margins are 20%? You haven't reported margins for this particular company. So just give us a sense in terms of what the blended...
So we believe that, call it in the next 4 to 6 quarters, right, we will be making some investments. So the margins in the short term might be slightly lower than our average company margins. But in the 4 to 6 quarter, the margins should be equal to Indegene's margins or even have a potential to be slightly higher.
Right. Okay. So you're expecting higher margins, maybe slightly higher after those investment cycle is over for you.
Yeah.
But what about overall? Now, how much will be the cash on books for you that will be left after this acquisition? Because you already have made a lot of acquisitions till date, right? Almost 13, 14 acquisitions that are done. So then any more acquisitions in the pipeline, or right now you'll be focusing on growing these ones?
So we have, first of all, let me answer the cash on question. We had approximately $200 million on our books before this acquisition. What we are paying out right now upfront is only $65 million.
Got it.
Right. And another 6 months later, we have another payout coming. But Indegene also is a profitable company generating cash, right? So we'll still have a lot of cash on our books. As far as the acquisition pipeline is concerned, we have a full-fledged corporate development team. And I would say still a very strong pipeline of future candidates for acquisitions. Of course, we are a very disciplined buyer, and we'll only buy once we see the synergy, the strategic fit, and the right price.
All right.
We're going to be open to acquisitions.
All right, you will be open to acquisition. This time around, X of acquisitions, if you could give us a sense on how the quarter has been for you, very close to your results, so not asking for specifics. And for the end of this year, what are your targets, if you could reiterate them? And are there any macro headwinds that you see to those targets because of the current happenings around the world when it comes to pharma, tariff, and all that uncertainty that is playing out?
Sure. So we are in a quiet period, so I'm not going to talk about the quarter, but I can talk to you about the fact is that we feel good about where we are as a company and the industry, by the way. Industry, in spite of the pharma industry, life science industry, in spite of all the tariff headwinds and all you see, is going through a period where they are taking the next steps to evolve, right? Adopting digital AI in a significant way. Biotech, again, as a sector has been, I would say, coming back, right, after a lull period for some time. So the tailwinds, we have enough tailwinds, which we believe are going to drive growth and market share for us over the next few quarters.
Just quickly, before we let you go, because of this uncertainty with regards to the pharma tariffs, the Pfizer deal being struck with the Trump administration, there's a lot of uncertainty. Is that delaying decisions by your clients?
Not really. Not really. In fact, because there are two things happening in this industry. One is that there is obviously a very significant number of products that are going to go off patent over the next 4 or 5 years, right? Probably adding up to $180 billion. But this industry has also never been, the pipeline has never been so strong. So the number of products that are slated to be launched over the next 3 or 4 years is very high, right? So, and that's the key thing the industry is focusing on.
Sure. Mr. Gupta, just quickly, because 64% of your revenue is from these top pharma companies, right? So that is all fine. There is no problem on that front. And that's still stable. There's no concerns because of the tariff on that front.
Stable and growing.
Okay, all right, Manish, we're going to let you go on that note, and we're probably going to discuss more numbers once your Q2 numbers do come out. Thanks very much for joining in and speaking with us.